It's Lieutenant Low Dog back at y'all with another one. Hey, see, I rock with Fox News. The rest of it be fake news, so I kind of rock with Fox News. But they got me tripping on this one, talking about some we about to be going into World War III. Putin weighing in his 2 cents on this Israel and Iran war and everything that Trump just dropped bombs on. I'm gonna let y'all hear what she just said about Putin because I just did my own research. Let's go ahead and get into this little video real quick. Let them go explain what they saying going on with Putin.
A short time ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin was asked if he is worried that the world could be heading toward World War III in this situation. Here's what he said.
It is disturbing. I am speaking without any irony, without any jokes. Of course, there is a lot of conflict potential. It is growing, and it is right under our noses, and it affects us directly. And this requires, of course, not only our careful attention to the events taking place, but also the search for solutions. The search for solutions, preferably by peaceful means.
All right, very interesting. Let's bring in Fox News senior correspondent Benjamin Hall.
Before they really get to talking, I'm gonna just throw my 2 cents out there. I didn't hear that boy Putin say nothing about going to war, no conflict, no nothing. All he just said was, let's come up with a peaceful resolution instead of anybody getting hurt. He ain't sit there and put himself out there, his people out there. He just basically said, let's come up with a resolution. But let's see what Fox News promoting real quick.
Of American exceptionalism, available on Fox Nation. Ben, always good to have you with us. You know, this statement by Putin builds upon a statement by his spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, who said, you know, don't even think about killing Khamenei, that would be opening Pandora's box, and that he believed there would be an outpouring of support for the Iranian regime. Your thoughts on where this stands, and Russia's bold talk, but not a lot of action on behalf of Iran.
Yeah, Martha, it's fascinating. We hadn't heard as much as we expected to from Russia until the last few days. But look, Russia is looking at one of its closest allies right now. Iran is part of that coalition between Russia, Iran, North Korea. And if Iran were to fall, and everyone's looking not just at the nuclear deal, but perhaps if it were to fall, that takes a big ally away from Russia, and they would do everything they can to try and shore them up. On top of that, we know that China is also really interested in having Iran on the table, and now we're seeing China planes flying into Iran, perhaps to pull people out, but also a real awareness of the 1.3 million barrels of oil a day that go from Iran to China. So you suddenly have this coalition of countries that have
all the goddamn oil that goes to China from Iran. That's all it's about, the oil. Now, if they about to come get the oil and United States and Israel trying to shut down Iran probably over oil, because it's always about something somebody about to take. It's really how I feel as far as, I'm going to tell you what niggas think. We think they trying to take something. Somebody trying to take something. Somebody taking something. And now they trying to throw Putin. I don't know why they trying to throw Russia in there. And Russia still saying the same thing they've been saying from the jump. We don't want no smoke. We ain't with all that. That's on them. That's their business. That's their party. Y'all want to get involved with that? That's on y'all. They still throwing Putin out there, trying to instigate a fight with Putin to jump in on Iran's behalf. For what? Why do y'all want beef with Putin so bad?
supported Iran, who are pushing back against it. And of course, when Dmitry Peskov earlier said that, if the Ayatollah was assassinated, then that would lead to severe consequences, they are thinking about Putin as well. They do not want to send a message that you can get rid of the leader of a country because you are at war with them, because of course, that is Putin's own spokesman when he says that. So those countries looking really, really closely, and I think would do whatever they can to keep the Ayatollah in power.
They trying to basically create a situation that involves Putin and all this. So, like I said, I did my own research. I wanted to see what Putin was really saying, because they already said, because in my mind, he already got a whole lot going on his own table. They really trying to say that he trying to take over Ukraine. All he doing is bullying Ukraine and everything. But when I did the research, it looked like there was a whole lot more to that story than people want trying to tell us. And that's why y'all got to do your own research. So I'm going to get over here and show y'all this video with what Putin was really saying, because he got his own explanations on everything he doing.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask a question, please, about Iran. Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel has said that Israel's attack on Iran may lead to regime change, and Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has called for Iran's unconditional surrender. I wonder if you agree with the Prime Minister and the President.
I didn't quite get your question. What do I agree with? What do you want me to agree all that? They said one thing and the other thing. And then you said, do you agree? What do I agree with?
Off the gate, Putin saying, bro, don't put no words in my mouth. Don't start accusing me or trying to point no direction of where I'm at. Ask me the straight up question that you're trying to ask me, and I can give you a straight up answer. Don't go around no bushes like no propaganda situation.
Either of their statements that it could lead to regime change and that Iran should prepare for unconditional surrender.
As you know, Russia and I personally keep in touch with Prime Minister of Israel on this matter, as well as with President Trump. You should always see whether the goal is achieved or not when you start something. We see that as of today, given all the challenging domestic processes there, we know about that, and there's no point in delving into that, but still there's a consolidation of society around the political leadership of the country. And, it happens virtually everywhere all the time. Iran is no exception here. That's first thing. And the second thing...
What he just said was, just to clump it up in a nutshell, he's saying situations happen everywhere. There's always somebody coming to take over something, or somebody having a disagreement, or somebody about to go steal your oil. It happens everywhere. Iran, there ain't no exception to y'all not having something come happen to y'all.
Is equally important, and everybody talks about that. I would just reiterate that what we hear and see all around the place, these underground facilities, they exist and nothing happened to that. And hence, I believe it would be right for us all together to seek ways to end hostilities and to find ways to reach an agreement for all parties to the conflict, so that the interests of Iran could be ensured on the one hand when it comes to its peaceful nuclear activities, naturally peaceful nuclear activities. And I'm also talking about peaceful nuclear energy and peaceful use of nuclear energy in other areas.
So he just admitted that they do have nuclear programs going on. Despite of the reason for the nuclear programs they got going on, they got nuclear programs going on nonetheless. So we had all right to be wondering what is you doing with all that woo out the bam?
As well as ensuring the interests of Israel in terms of unconditional security of the Jewish state. That is a subtle matter, and certainly we should be extremely careful here. But in my view, overall, such a decision could be reached. As you know, back in the time, we started implementing a project in Iran that was launched by German companies, and we built the Bushehr power plant. German companies left. Iranians asked us to follow up on that project. It was a difficult task because it was started by German specialists. It was their design, and Rosatom made a great deal of effort in order to adjust these to the Russian design. Nevertheless, we succeeded, and this...
He for sure just admitted that they had nuclear plants. Germany went over there and started all this. You know what I'm saying? They had the material that Germany wanted and needed for what they was trying to do over in Germany. They did that. They conquered that. They accomplished that, and they took what they needed back to Germany. Here go Iran saying, hold up, y'all left this behind. We still got this, but can we continue doing it here? Like, well, we don't care what y'all do. We gone. We already, you know what I'm saying? Whatever y'all seen us do, we ain't saying y'all can't, but we gone. They got up out of there.
Unit has been operating successfully. We signed a contract to build 2 extra units, and this is a work in progress. Our experts are on the field. We're talking about over 200 people, and we agreed with the Israeli leadership that their security will be ensured. Overall, I believe that given the plans of Iran to keep on developing the peaceful nuclear program, I'm talking about the areas of agriculture that is applicable, as well as medicine and so on. But this is not nuclear energy. As well as nuclear energy, together with Iran, since we have this high level of trust between our countries, we have established very good relations, we could keep up with this effort and ensure their interests in this area. I would not delve into details, there are a lot of them. And all these details were discussed by us, both with the Israeli side, with the American side, and certain messages were sent to our Iranian friends. And overall, the interests of Iran in peaceful nuclear energy can be ensured. At the same time, we could lift concerns of Israel when it comes to its security. In my view, there are such options. Once again, we have outlined them to our partners, the US, Israel, and we reached out to Iran. We do not impose anything to anyone. We simply say how we see the way out of the situation.
He just said, I don't care what nobody do. They do, Iran, Israel, United States. I'm just gonna throw out there, yo, there's a possibility to do it the easy way. We can do it a peaceful way. Y'all ain't listening to me? Oh well. Y'all ain't trying to hear what I'm saying? Oh well. That's all he just said. That's all he just said. It's y'all decision. It's y'all country. It's what y'all want to do. I got some ideas if y'all want it to go peaceful. That's all he said.
Certainly, it's up to the political leadership of all these countries to decide, primarily Iran and Israel.
See, where is Putin really coming from? Because, you know, they're always saying Putin trying to take over Ukraine. Putin is the bully of Ukraine and things like that. He was already talking and spazzing about, nah, y'all got me all wrong as the bad guy, but y'all already start pushing off some old bullcrap agenda and trying to come against, become the ops to us. We was all a team. He about to start giving y'all more of an understanding of what's really going on from his point of view in Russia.
History, we'll see that this issue pops up from time to time in the course of history. Understandably, the current crisis in the relations between Russia and Western Europe goes back to 2014. But the problem is not that Crimea joined Russia. The problem is that the Western countries were facilitating a coup in Ukraine. We always hear this saying that we need to live by the rules. But what kind of rules are these when 3 countries, France, Germany, and Poland, came to Kiev and they put their signature to the agreement between the opposition and the then authorities headed by President Yanukovych as the guarantors. Their foreign ministers came to Kiev and acted as guarantors. Our colleague from Germany is looking at me. Mr. Steinmeier used to be a foreign minister and he put his signature to that document. But after several days, the opposition carried out an armed coup, and we didn't hear any protest. And then they're telling us that we need to abide by the rules. Are you writing rules for others to follow, whereas you are not going to perform according to those rules yourself? That's where this crisis stems from. Not because Russia was acting from the position of force. No, it was these people whom we used to call partners until recently that have started to act according to these rules. Madam Nuland said that they would spend $5 billion on the coup.
In his explanation, he basically saying a bunch of countries done came together and signed documents that, okay, in Kiev, we're going to have peace agreements, we're going to have good relations where we can work together and everything will be good. But then some coup all of a sudden came about where they about to start like trying to plot behind his back as a country. Like, what even was this coup? Y'all got money, deep money into trying to pull some stunts behind my back. What did y'all even own? Because y'all starting to bug me out, is what he's really saying. He didn't start this. He basically in the finishing this situation.
What kind of revelation is that? Our Western partners have always been acting from the position of force since the collapse of the Soviet Union, and it's understandable why that has been happening. I wrote about that because since the Second World War, the order had been built upon a balance of powers and force between the countries that emerged victorious in the Second World War, but then one of the powers disappeared and the West started to rewrite the rules to suit its own goals. So it all started with Ukraine. You know, the development started to happen in the southeastern part of Ukraine, where they did not accept that coup. Instead of trying to reach an agreement with them, the authorities decided to use force against them. We tried to find a solution. For 8 years, we had been trying to secure an agreement between...
So it sounds like Russia's peoples down there, kind of around that border area. From what it sounds like to me, from a nigga standpoint, it sounds like Russia's people's down there, and Ukraine's trying to start a whole new regime in a certain part of Ukraine. And the people that's like, and the Russian people that's like close to that area, they trying to basically like, you get down or you lay down. It's like, hold on, pimp. We still supposed to be able to work together. Nah, it's either you get down or you lay down. So Putin's situation is, I'm trying to figure out a way that we can still work together and come to agreement. Y'all know that's not how we rock.
Kiev authorities that stood at the origin of the coup d'etat and the southeastern part of Ukraine. Well, back then it was Ukraine, it was the Donbas region. But in the end, the current authorities told us that they were not happy with anything in the Minsk agreements, that they were not going to observe them. For 8 years, they had been persecuting these countries. They were also mistreating the Russian Orthodox Church, the Russian-speaking population, and everyone had been turning a blind eye to that. In the end, we took the decision to put an end to this conflict, yes, by resorting to armed forces. Does this mean we intend to attack Eastern Europe? You know, in the past, propagandists from the Hitler...
Hold on, let me run that back a little bit.
For 8 years, they had been persecuting these countries. They were also mistreating the Russian Orthodox Church, the Russian-speaking population, and everyone had been turning a blind eye to that. In the end, we took the decision to put an end to this conflict, yes, by resorting to armed forces. Does this mean we intend to attack Eastern Europe?
He ain't trying to go to war with everybody. That was about them getting down, trying to get down on his own people. So if we supposed to believe that Putin out here bullying people and starting wars, and now y'all trying to get Putin involved into another part of another war, and all he really started out on his end was about them mobs down there trying to get down on his people or regime they trying to create it to be. There's always two sides to a story. That's why I don't just believe one thing. I go look at everything and kind of get a bigger picture of what's going on. Is Putin the bad guy? Because if you think about it, if we did business with Russia, China, the UA, everybody, boy, we'd be straight. But there's so many restrictions there, and all this, that, and the third, that we ain't working with each other good enough. You know what I'm saying? But how y'all know that's Putin that's stopping that?
In the past, propagandists from the Hitler regime said that the more implausible the lie, the more efficient it is. So this legend that Russia harbors the thought of attacking Europe is that incredible lie they're trying to make their population believe in. But we understand, all of us understand, that this is nonsense, this is absurd. And even those who are saying that do not believe 1 second that. I don't think you believe that. Is there anyone here who believes that Russia is preparing an offensive against NATO? You know?
There's a lot of people that thinks that, fam. A lot of people. Because that's all the news is saying. That you are trying to cause mayhem everywhere. But if you actually listen to you, that's not actually what you're saying. Why is everybody trying to make you out to be the bad guy? There is always a hidden propaganda somewhere. There's always a hidden reason to why they're trying to make you think something.
NATO countries are currently spending $1,400,000,000,000 US dollars on military expenditure. This is more than the rest of the world combined, including Russia. And what's the population of NATO? It's more than 300 million, almost 400 million, I think. Whereas Russia's population is just 150.
So who is the real bully? Y'all got way more people putting way more money behind way more army and defenses. We the smaller amount. Why did y'all keep on trying to make it seem like we the bad guy?
Also, and the money we spend on defense is not comparable to that. And they are still saying that we are gonna attack Europe. But that's absurd, and everyone understands it's nonsense. They're still trying to dupe their own population in order to get more money from the taxpayers. It's almost 5%. They're gonna ramp their military expenditure too of the GDP, and they're also trying to explain away their failures in economy. Germany is the EU's leading economy, and it's currently on the brink of recession. I still cannot wrap my head around this. Why did Germany decide to stop using our energy? We used to supply energy via Ukraine. Ukraine used to get transit fees to the tune of several million US dollars. And Germany decided to abandon all of that. There is no rational explanation for that. Volkswagen is perishing. The same goes for Porsche, the steel making industry as well, the fertilizers. It's all the same. But for the sake of what? To spite the conductor, I'm going to buy a ticket, but I'm not going to take the train. If NATO countries want to boost their military expenditure even further, well, it's up to them. But it's not going to benefit anyone. Yes, it's certainly going to create additional risks, but it's up to them to make that decision. I think that is absolutely irrational. Moreover, it's pointless because there are no dangers emanating from Russia whatsoever.
What more do we gotta say? What more do he gotta say? Y'all just saying, oh, Putin lying. Putin gotta be lying. Putin gots to be lying. He gotta be lying. He ain't the truth teller. He just said there ain't no threats coming from Russia. Y'all ain't got nothing to worry about coming from Russia. Why is y'all so worried about Russia? Stop worrying about Russia. Worry about what's going on in y'all backyards and quit trying to involve Russia and actually come get these dogs from acting funny. Because they acting funny with Russia, and I'm about to keep dropping bombs on them if they keep on playing with me. That's what's going on.
Dr. Goebbels used to say that the more incredible the lie, the faster the people are going to believe it. And maybe some do believe it. But they had better look into saving their car industry and also increasing their salaries.
Worry about what's going on with y'all economy. Worry about what's going on with y'all. Stop worrying about what's going on over here unless y'all trying to help. Because these niggas acting funny down there and they got me bugging. And once I do something to them, now everybody tripping. So like as a person in my shoes, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, including Putin. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how did all this start? I try to listen for how it all started or what it came about or what's his reasoning behind all this. So I'm going to just keep listening to what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? So keep listening to what he's saying. And pay attention to the questions because he actually be answering the questions they be asking them.
At all times, Russia has paid a great deal of attention to art, to literature. On the one hand, we see the development of cultural and arts festivals. On the other hand, basically there's a war waged by Russia, and I would like to talk to you about a possible end to this war. Previously, together with President Erdogan of Turkey, during the war, you have signed an agreement on the grain corridor, and together you have saved millions of people from famine. Even against this challenging backdrop, you have managed to find a solution to such complex issues. Last week, President Erdogan called to have a summit in Turkey, a peace summit. Mr. Zelensky agreed immediately. Mr. Trump said that I will come if Putin comes, but Kremlin said that the conditions are not ripe so far. And in this regard, I have the following question. Do you give an important role to the leaders in addressing these issues? And what are the conditions that should be ripe so that leaders could gather and put an end to this conflict? Thank you. Regarding the statement of President Trump, well, I heard it differently. Mr. said, Putin doesn't come because I don't come. What should he do there if I'm not there? And he's right here.
You remember when Trump said, if I don't go, Putin ain't going? I mean, Zelensky wanted to have a meeting and get the war ended and all that, but Trump, and they set it up and everything. Trump like, I mean, yeah, I think I should be there for it to really actually work, but he had that trip in Dubai and everything. He was getting that money for America. He was getting that. They was giving him that plane at that time and everything. So he was wrapped up in a little bit of lot. What Trump said was all facts. He said, I ain't going if Putin ain't going. Putin just said he was right. I wasn't going if he wasn't going.
That's the first thing. And secondly, he repeatedly said, had I been president, this war would have never happened. And maybe he's also right here.
Kudos. 2 words. Clutch.
During one of my latest telephone conversations with Mr. Biden, I told him, well, I would not delve into details right now. We have all the records. I said that we shouldn't go as far as have these hotbeds of tension and conflicts. We need to ensure that the current leadership of Ukraine should meet the needs of its citizens in the southeast of Ukraine. There is a need to put a stop to the genocide of the Russian-speaking population. Human rights violations should not happen.
His people getting attacked out there. The Russian-speaking population is getting genocide on. They trying to make a regime. They had things going on that everybody didn't know the full story of why he had to step in. He's saving people from famine. You heard what he just said earlier in that answer. And the question that the guy asked him, he basically saying like, bro, you was all types of help, but why is they looking at you like the bad guy?
That is something that was repeatedly said by the previous administration regarding the human rights. And by the way, back in the day I told him, you think that it will all be resolved so easily right now, but afterwards it might turn out that it would be better if you hadn't done things that you did. And I said it to him, and probably if Trump was the president, this conflict hadn't happened.
So he basically saying whatever Biden was doing in office was helping Ukraine do more of the dirt that they was doing on the side and trying to look innocent doing it. I mean, I'm only speaking from Putin's point of view. I'm just only saying what he's saying. I'm only interpreting what I think I hear him saying.
That's the first thing. As for the summits, I participated in the Minsk negotiations where we were seeking the principles for peaceful settlement, and we spent 17 hours talking about that. We spent the whole night doing that, and we reached an agreement on the principles, but the Western countries did not abide by them. The German Chancellor said that they simply had to buy time to rearm Ukraine. She said it publicly. Nobody forced her to do that. Same goes for the former French president. They were the ones who said that. It turned out that our so-called Western partners never intended on implementing anything.
So they came up with the plans to make peace. They came up with the plans to enforce a few laws that say, yo, y'all can't keep doing this little bull crap on the side. We're going to work together. But they Western friends at the time, Biden was in office, like, hey, whatever y'all, we with y'all. And as a matter of fact, if something pop off, we got y'all back. Whoa. What is going on here?
We need to find a solution that wouldn't just put an end to the current conflict, but that would put in place conditions to prevent such kind of situations in the long run. When the conflict just erupted, we tried to convince the Ukrainian side so that they would use the Minsk agreements to reunify the part of Ukraine that wanted to leave them, but they refused to do that, and ultimately military conflict erupted. I've already said it to Secretary General Guterres, and I said it publicly. You might argue in any way you can chastise Russia for launching an aggression, but listen, you don't need to be a big expert in public international law to understand the rationale that I'm going to outline to you. A part of the territory of one country decided to separate from the main party, and I'm talking about the southeast of Ukraine. Donetsk and Lugansk, they decided to part from Ukraine. Did they have the right to do that? In line with international law and the UN Charter, they were entitled to do that, and the relevant article stipulates the right of nations to self-determination. I believe it is Article 1, the right of peoples to self-determination. That's the first thing. Secondly, during this process, had this part of the country had the obligation to ask for permission to the central authorities, according to the UN decision following the Kosovo case. The International Court of Justice directly stipulated if a part of a country decided to separate, it doesn't have an obligation to ask for permission to the central authorities. And that's what Donbas did. We were entitled to recognize their independence. For 8 years, we have been tolerating that, and we were trying to reach an agreement. Ultimately, they declared their independence. Were we entitled to recognize them? Why not? We recognized them, but by doing so, we signed an agreement on mutual assistance. We were allowed to do that. Of course, and that's what we did. And in the framework of this agreement that we ratified by the parliament, we had to provide assistance to them, including military assistance. They made an official request to us, and we provided assistance to them.
They wanted to break off on their own. They broke off on their own. they really wanted to be a nuisance while they was breaking off their own and asking for the help of Russia just because y'all on your own and can't handle it out there on your own. And we helping y'all with all that?
Please tell me, where had I made a mistake?
We done let y'all go on your own because evidently it's perfectly legal for y'all to declare y'all independence. We can't stop y'all from doing that. If y'all want to be independent, y'all actually can do that. Y'all outvoted, y'all did what y'all wanted to do, y'all on your own, but don't start doing this little dirt on the side.
Couldn't find any mistake. There is no mistake whatsoever. One stems from another. When I'm talking about the Kosovo case, I do recall what happened there. Back in the day, the Western countries, European countries, the US made serious pressure on this International Court of Justice, and it made a decision during the separation of a certain part of a country. This part of the country shall not ask for permission, for central authorities for permission. That's it. They did it with their hands. How come? Well, that's what it is. You can do that, and here we cannot do the same. This shouldn't happen. There should be universal rules. Only in this case will they be stable. And this is the guarantee for security of others, not at the expense of others. That's the key part. We're ready to have a meeting. And by the way, I'm ready to meet with anyone, including Zelensky. It's not the point. If the Ukrainian state authorizes anyone to hold negotiations, the point is who will sign documents.
And all he wants is documentation signed that it's going to be a peaceful agreement that y'all going to abide by the rules. Because everybody got a set of rules that everybody's abiding by, but y'all want to be the only ones off the grid that got y'all own set of rules. That ain't right. And then my people got to suffer for that. The Russian-speaking community got to suffer for that. Nah, that ain't cool. So I'm ready to have a meeting, but the meeting got to be right. And I ain't just about to have no meeting with those snakes, so I want the third party in there, and that's Trump, because Trump be holding it down. And if it's some bullshit in there, Trump gonna call somebody out on their bullshit. And I ain't gonna lie to you, when it comes to business, Trump looking at the bigger, better business.
They didn't invent anything. In terms of propaganda, you can say anything about the legitimacy of the current authorities. But when we resolve serious issues, what is important to us is not the propaganda but the legal issues. According to the Ukrainian constitution, the president of Ukraine is elected for 5 years. As for the extension of his mandate, there are no options to that, including during the martial law. Do read it carefully. During the martial law, only the mandate of the parliament is extended. It stipulates that during the martial law, elections shall not take place. That is true, but it does not stipulate that the mandate of the president is extended.
So he basically just said that how is Zelensky still president in the first place? Because he got a 5-year term. A 5-year term, and he's still president, but he want to utilize this war to try to extend his presidency when it don't even matter. The rules constitute that you is at the office after 5 years. There's a lot of different rules that they ain't buying by. They just own their own situation and trying to... Look, man, something ain't smelling right if you ask me.
And that's it. As for the constitutional order, Ukraine is not a parliamentary or presidential republic. It is presidential parliamentary republic. What does it mean? It means that all bodies of authorities are shaped by the president. Well, everybody considers it to be a democratic society. It might be the case. So everybody is appointed by the president. All military commanders are appointed by the president, just like ministers, and all governors are appointed by the president. There is no election process here. But if the head of the state is not legitimate, then the whole system is illegitimate.
He just said, so basically all the ranking members up under Zelensky just cannot be official ranking members up under Zelensky. Because if you outside of the Constitution running as a rogue president, how are you still in power? So if you're not legitimately in power, the people that you appointed that's up under you are not legitimately in power. So basically, y'all have a powerless government. Legitimately.
Why am I saying that? We don't care who conducts negotiations. Even if it is the current head of state, I'm ready to meet him. But if there is a final ultimate stage, so that we would not just sit and divide and argue on something, but just finalize the issue. But it should be done by legitimate authorities. They should be the ones to sign it, because the next leader would come and throw everything into the dustbin. This shouldn't be the case. I do not abandon that, but we need to have a great deal of effort invested. And another important point, even before the conflict, we asked the Ukrainian authorities to implement the Minsk agreements. They refused to do that. Then the special military operation was launched. Once it was launched, well, how was it launched? It's no secret. We told them, withdraw your troops from Donetsk and Lugansk republics that we recognized as independent states. And that's it. Everything will end tomorrow. No, we will keep on fighting. Okay, they kept on fighting. Then afterwards, and I also made it public, one of Western colleagues asked me, could you imagine that the Kherson region, the Zaporozhye region, you're fighting for Donetsk and Lugansk, and the other two regions had nothing to do with that, but that was the logic of the military actions. Could you think about leaving them? Well, we could think about the sovereignty of Ukraine, but provided a certain servitude, the right to have this land passage to Crimea. Why? Because they always make these threats to destroy the Crimean bridge. As simple as that. And this person said, can I tell it to Kiev? He came and told it, and they said that he's an agent of Kremlin. This is one of the leaders of one of the major states. Well, that's nonsense. Okay, we reciprocate.
This is basically for y'all to hear what Putin is saying out of his point of view. I don't think a lot of people try to go really listening to this, so I'm only going to break down the parts that I feel like we really need to hear. The rest of it be lies. They be lying to y'all, man.
To the requests of the citizens in this territory, and we hold a referendum, and now it's part and parcel of the Russian Federation. And as I have said, the situation would degrade, and that's what happened. Now we're talking not only about Donetsk and Lugansk, but about two other regions of the Russian Federation plus Crimea. Let us discuss this. By the way, when we had negotiations in Istanbul, and thanks a lot to President Erdogan in 2022, odd as it may seem, but we reached an agreement on everything with them. You see, there was a draft agreement that was developed, and it included issues of denazification, territorial issues. We reached a certain language that both Russia and Ukraine were happy about.
And this was back in 2022. After all the conflict, after everything that's been going on, you hear he breaking it down. Everything that's been going on, the back and forth, and then we getting down on y'all trying to get down on us. And all right, so we just came up with an agreement and a good language that we can kind of both comprehend and see what we can do from there.
But no, those who want to increase the defense expenditures in Europe and the US came and they said, you shouldn't do that, you should have a military defeat of Russia on the battlefield. They threw everything away and they started reaching this goal. Now the situation...
When did this happen? Back in 2000. Who was in office? Biden. They said scrap all that good agreements y'all got. We got other plans for y'all.
Of Russia on the battlefield, they threw everything away and they started reaching this goal. Now the situation has changed and they say, let us reach an agreement. Okay, let's do that. Let us unwrap these packages and let us hold negotiations.
And he just said that in the most subtle way. Now the situation has changed. Yeah, Biden was giving y'all money saying, oh yeah, his ammunition, his money to go to war. They just started bombing us like a mob. All right, so we start hitting back real good. Situations have changed. Now y'all want to negotiate, but I'm the bad guy.
Just sit day in, day out, all year round. That is why we are ready to continue these negotiations. Currently, overall, when it comes to humanitarian track, the situation proves that these negotiations have a point. We agreed to have this 1,200 POWs exchange. We already received 500 and we are ready to receive further 400. Well, it is said, but we provided more than 6,000 bodies. In return, we got 57, I believe, 57 bodies. We provided 6,000 bodies of Ukrainian soldiers to Ukraine, and we're ready to provide additional 3,000. But let me once again reiterate, these are tragic and sad figures. Nevertheless, this is a humanitarian issue, and that is a positive outcome of negotiations in Istanbul. Thanks a lot for the platform that you have provided. Thanks to President Erdogan. But we are ready to have substantive negotiations on the principles of settlement. But the Ukrainian side also needs to be prepared for that. And its Western sponsors and so-called allies should not push it to have a struggle till the last Ukrainians, but they should indicate the current realities and they should indicate the current state of affairs. Currently, we keep in touch. Our negotiation teams keep in touch.
Closely realize the current state of affairs. We're winning. Yeah, we look like the bad guy now. We're winning. And y'all want to negotiate. So, hey, the ball is kind of in our court. We balling with the United States because that's where the money at. And y'all been tripping. So now that the right president is in office, we can kind of negotiate some good deals. You know what I'm saying?
I asked just now Medinsky, and he said he had a conversation today with his counterpart from Kiev, and they reached an agreement on having another meeting after June 22nd. But I should say straight away that Mr. Fidan, let alone President Erdogan, are doing a lot in order to achieve this settlement. And I should say directly that President Trump of the US has been doing a lot and is sincerely committed to settlement. We will build on the position of our friends from China, India, other BRICS nations. We keep in touch regularly on that matter. They too are very concerned. I meet with the leaders of these states and we start almost every conversation with that matter, and we thank them for thinking about that and for trying to find a solution. Believe me, we want to have a fast solution, and it's better to have a peaceful solution. Thank you.
So y'all basically trying to tell me I'm about to go to World War III. It's about to be all this drama, but I'm focused on this over here. I'm trying to actually bring everybody together. I'm saying I can make deals with USA, China, this, that, and the third. We'll whop the bam. Y'all ain't even trying to make it seem like I'm a team player. Y'all just throwing me out there with the wolves saying I'm the big bad guy. Now I got warrants, international warrants. I can't leave Russia, have meetings at certain places because y'all want to arrest me. Boy, y'all arrest me, boy. I'm trying to tell you. Look, Russia ain't the enemy. Might not be the enemy. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I don't know. You gotta do your own research and listen to these people yourself. You know what I'm saying? Some of them be fearmonger. some of them be really dropping heat. Because now I'm starting to think like, okay, so we definitely ain't going to a World War III then. Because if you listen kind of closely to what Putin is saying, he ain't coming on no rescue mission for no dang on Iran. I'm just saying, that's what I hear. He ain't coming for no rescue mission.
Carrying me over to you, please.
He just give me reporter vibes.
Please turn on the mic. Thank you. I'm sorry. If tomorrow, with the help of the US or without it, Israel were to assassinate Ayatollah Khamenei, what would Russia's reaction be? What would your first actions be? That is the first part. I'm sorry, Mr. Taubey, if you'll allow me. I think this is going to be the best response to your question. I would not even discuss this possibility. But unfortunately, this possibility is being openly discussed by Mr. Netanyahu, by Mr. Trump. Yes, I've heard all of that, but I would be loath to even discuss that. The second part of my question is also about Iran. You've got a strategic partnership treaty with Iran. It doesn't have a provision on mutual defense, but still, given the acute nature of the situation, would you be willing to provide Iran with new types of weapons for them to be able to defend against strikes from Israel?
So he's saying basically, hold on, so you doing business with Iran. We know you doing business with Iran. You just said earlier you doing business with Iran. So you gonna help them?
You know, in the past, we proposed to our Iranian friends to work together on air defense. Back then, they didn't show a great deal of interest, and that was it. As for the treaty that you have mentioned, the Treaty on Strategic Partnership, it does not have any provisions on defense. Secondly, and third, our Iranian friends are not asking us for that, so there's nothing to discuss.
So he just said, yeah, we got business with them. We good. But they ain't got nothing to do with defense, a part of that package. Yeah, we've been having dealings with them in the past about offering them some defense business negotiations where we can help y'all with air defense, and they show no interest in that. So we ain't got nothing to do with what they need done as far as defense goes. Is what he just said, from my understanding.
If you'll allow me a clarification, if I'm not mistaken, you've provided them with S-300 and also modified S-200. So Russia did play a certain role in protecting Iran. You know, this is different, because our proposal was to work together on a whole system, not just equipment. Yes, we did discuss that in the past, but the Iranian side didn't show a great deal of interest, and our proposal, yes, there were certain supplies. We did carry out those supplies. This has nothing to do with the current crisis. This was just some regular cooperation in the military and technical field. It was under international law. We did not violate anything. Iran had never asked us for anything that would run counter to the international norms that Russia had subscribed to. We have always stayed within the bounds of international law.
We didn't want no smoke. What we did with them was by law. Is what we was able to do with them. And they ain't got nothing to do with what they got going on. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Guzman, for the introduction, and thank you, President Putin, for the opportunity to ask these questions directly to you. It's much appreciated. In relation to the fighting between Israel and Iran, on June the 13th, a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry condemned the Israeli strikes on Iran. It said, unprovoked military strikes against a sovereign member of the UN, against its citizens, peaceful cities and critical infrastructure facilities are totally unacceptable. It's a simple question. How does that sit in relation to Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine? Yesterday, 28 civilians were killed in Kyiv. AP journalists witnessed a tower block that had been destroyed by a Russian missile. So how do those two positions reconcile themselves? Then a follow-up to that, do you have any plans to meet with President Trump or talk to him again by telephone?
As for our actions in Ukraine, I think I have given a detailed account of that to your colleague when responding to his question. I think it would be pointless for me to repeat. We do not believe that we were the ones who started the hostilities in Ukraine, but we're...
So he basically just said again, but I'm not about to keep repeating myself. The dude with the bifocals earlier just asked me about the same topic. I clearly said there's going to be casualties. There's going to be things that's going to happen if they keep on playing with me. You know what I'm saying? So what do you expect? You think there's not going to be bombs dropped? If there's bombs being dropped, if there's some war going on, people going to get hurt. There's going to be casualties. And it's going on in inconvenient locations. I'm sorry for that. But at the same time, right now, we need to focus on the big picture. We at war right now, and it ain't my intentions. But since I'm the one that's up, it's time for us to make some type of terms on my terms.
To put an end to them, whereas the current Ukrainian leadership unleashed a war on its own territory using force after the coup d'etat against the innocent population of Donbass. They used aviation as well as heavy military equipment against those people. They were performing strikes against residential areas. For some reason, no one wants to bring that up right now, but it was precisely this measures that resulted in the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia right.
Don't nobody want to mention what Zelensky was doing on his end. Don't nobody want to mention this, but when I start putting the hammer down, that's when everybody want to start saying something. Hey, I'm only saying what I'm interpreting, what he's saying. That's only what I think I'm hearing is what I'm saying. Is what I think I'm hearing from what he's saying.
Now, that's first. Secondly, if your journalists did see those residential blocks destroyed by Russian missiles, they couldn't have told you about that. If they had seen anything, they saw that from the side, but it was not a strike against a residential area. It was a strike against a military facility, against a plant that is producing military equipment. This is what we're doing, and we're not hiding that. One of the goals of the special military operation is to demilitarize Ukraine. That is to take away its capacities to have armed forces that could pose a threat to us. So
that kind of sounds exactly the same as what Israel doing with Iran. They bombing nuclear facilities and camps and things like that of that nature, but Iran bombing civilian populations. Like, come on now. Like, why is you trying to kill people?
either have to agree with them on that, and this is something we reached an agreement on in Istanbul back in 2022, because back then we came to an agreement on the size of the armed forces that Ukraine was allowed to possess. We had also come to an agreement on the number of the armed force and the staffing. We had an agreement on everything, but afterwards, thanks to the efforts of the Western allies of Ukraine, they simply threw all of these agreements away, as I mentioned, and
which was Biden at the time in 2022 when they had an agreement on the table. They threw that all out the window and said, "Here's some funding and go to war. Here, go ahead and spend some taxpayer money. Just go to war. Just do what y'all do."
Decided to fight against the last Ukrainian, after a full. Until a full strategic victory is something which they couldn't achieve. So, unfortunately, Ukraine, we want to make sure that there cannot be any armed forces in Ukraine that could pose a threat to Russia and the future. And these are the strikes that your journalists witnessed. Of course, if we can come to an agreement If you can't come to an agreement peacefully, then we will have to seek a military solution to that. There's nothing surprising about that. I do hope I've managed to give an answer to your question. As far as the statement by our foreign ministry is concerned, it's all understandable. It cites international law. It's all transparent. Now, as for our actions in Ukraine, I've explained our logic to you. And I've gone through this logic step by step. We believe this is fully in compliance with the UN Charter.
So unless I'm missing something, Putin is really just trying to get some peace all across the board. Maybe he need what he need on his end, what he's at in his area, but ain't none of our business. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they was doing over there, it sounded a little fishy anyway. So y'all negotiate that. But there ain't no World War III plans going on, because unless they trying to really jump in, something I don't know about, they jumping in on the back end trying to get a little bit of that oil that everybody about to go take from Iran. I don't know. There's something going on in the water, but I'll tell you this, it ain't no World War III. Y'all need to quit trying to bring that up, man. That, like I said, Fox News, y'all was tripping about that one. I ain't gonna keep trying to press the gas pedal on the World War III. I'm gonna just try to say, yo, we need to do business with more of these people. Simple. It's Dog Time TV, man. Y'all do your own research, man. Get out there. I'm gone.